Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams. We'll talk about the Saints draft day. Of course, the Pelicans, unfortunately, 0-2 down to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll get into, again, LSU and Tulane spring. And if we have some time, we'll definitely talk some baseball as well. And to break it down, two of the best we have. And, of course, guys that I just love having on this program, Jude Young and also Rene Nadeau, CrestCitySports.com. Of course, Jude Young, my colleague over at 106.1 The Ticket as well. It's going to be a great show. Stick around. It's going to be a fun hour. Guys, welcome to the show. Man, what a busy week, huh? I forgot to mention. Oh, yeah, we'll mention Zurich Classic as well. By the way, they're teeing off right now out at the TBC of Louisiana. Let's start off with our good friend Jude Young first. Tell us a little bit about what's happening with him. And, of course, again, between CrestCitySports.com, UNO, again, the voice of UNO basketball, and, of course, part of, again, the all-new 106.1 The Ticket. How are you, my man?
I'm doing great, man. This is the busiest week of the year for us, especially with the Pelicans being in the playoffs, and we're excited about it at CrescentCitySports.com. And folks like Rene make me look good. They say, your website's great. It's like, hey, I help put it together, but guys like him provide the content that make it so fantastic. College, high school, and of course the pros year-round. And as Eric mentioned, I do enjoy a little bit of time on the air when I have a chance as a host on All Access, the 6 o'clock hour on the brand new Ticket 106.1. We're still very excited about that and where we're headed on the airwaves. And of course, we are the home on that station of UNO Athletics, and I'm the basketball and sometimes baseball broadcaster. Very excited about the winds of change on the lakefront as far as basketball goes, with exciting news coming out in the next few days about the new head coach there. So a lot going on, both on and off the floor, the field, you name it.
I agree. Rene, welcome back, my friend.
Well, he corrects all my mistakes when I send in stories. So it turns out
he's the editor?
He's the editor. Anyway, but I work for CrestCitySports.com, CBS Sports, which I'll be doing stuff for the draft, Saints, Pelicans, bowl games, LSU, Tulane. And whenever I get a call for a college football game, if they still get my number, I'll do some more games this year for ESPN or Fox. But everything's been great. Everything's been great.
And he's our recruiting analyst, and it doesn't cost you a dime, which these days is more valuable than platinum.
That's true. Isn't that the truth, though?
Yes.
That's right.
That's true.
The truth.
I forgot about that.
I'll tell you what, let me do a little bit of a left turn here right now real quick, because I want to mention, you mentioned it coming in. Mark Schlesinger leaves UNO, headed to Indiana State, going to be the associate head coach there. Again, you know what's going on behind the scenes at UNO. I think people are going to be very excited about, again, the new coach is going to be coming on. But just, again, your thoughts about Schlesinger and him moving on.
Well, I think it's a win-win at this point for both the coach and the program. After 13 years, there were some successes there, but lately there were not. And in this new NIL era, much more competitive, UNO has been trying to fight an uphill battle in that area, but moves are being made behind the scenes to sort of improve in those areas, because if they're going to win on the basketball court, you've got to be able to compete in that arena.
Right?
No question about it. McNeese being the standard setter, at least for now, with Will Wade, there are other schools in the league that are getting in the game and getting into it hard. So you think it's low major basketball? No, it's Division I basketball, and there's money all over, and you have to be in that market, whether you like it or not. I know there's a lot of people out there who are bitter about that, but it's happening in college athletics, and if you're going to watch it and support it, that's part of the game. And UNO's trying to do their best to be able to stay in the game. I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Kathy Johnson, who's the new president of the school. She's hit the ground running, and they're having successes in enrollment already and helping athletics as well and supporting that endeavor to try to promote the school. So more exciting times for UNO, when obviously it's been a little rougher than we would have hoped lately.
Yeah. And again, we're not letting the cat out the bag here, but on Tuesday?
On Monday. Monday, that's what I'm hearing. I can't tell you when, I can't tell you where, but as of right now, it sounds like Monday is going to be the time we're going to know who the coach is.
I think New Orleans is going to be very excited about the next coach at UNO. All right. Rene, I'm coming to you first, because I'm telling you right now, we were all laughing before we went on the air today, because again, we know the Saints are probably going to pick an offensive tackle in tonight's first round. And of course, again, we all feel like those of us that are again doing radio or TV, myself, Jude, and myself included, have such a problem with, again, these Polynesian names for the tackles. So we are going to defer to you today, again, to talk a little bit about what's going on with the offensive tackle position. By the way, pretty good tackle class, right?
It is, and I'm going to tell you, respectfully, we miss him, but where would Buddy D be with these names today?
Every time I turn the mic on, and I have to look at those names, the first thing I think about is Buddy D. Are you kidding me?
Oh, man, we miss Buddy. But it's a great class, and luckily we had a chance to meet with Mickey Loomis this week, and he did cite that the tackle, offensive line position, and wide receiver, the two spots they're going to probably target are very deep. And I think they're going to have a lot of choices. You know, 2 years ago, in 2022, there were 9 first-round picks trades in the first round.
Right. I
don't think there'll be that many, but I really think there's going to be at least half a dozen, 6 or 7 trades in this first round coming tonight. I really do. I can see it coming.
Do you think the Saints will be part of that?
I'd say it's a 50-50 chance. I don't think it'll happen, but it could. It depends what happens in other spots.
Right.
If somebody makes a trade you know, the Saints see an opportunity, I think they can move. But I don't think the Saints will initiate anything until other things fall.
What's your take, Jude? Because again, without a 3rd and 4th round pick, if you could move down a few spots and still get...
I was about to say, not financial advice, but if the Saints move down, that would be a bet I couldn't blame you for losing, because I don't see that happening. I think they're going to be aggressive again and try to
move up.
If they do anything, I could see them moving up, and it could be moving up with their number 14 pick, or it could be something involved grabbing another pick in the top 50 if they can, because the draft is so deep in that top 50 in 2 positions that they're very much interested in. We mentioned receiver, and obviously their huge need, the biggest by far, is offensive line. There could be 10 offensive linemen going in the first round, and most of them play tackle. That's what the Saints need desperately, because right now I don't think they have 2 starting tackles.
Right, and well, then you also have the question, also the guard position now, with James Hurst retiring yesterday, again, after 10 years.
And Rene did a great job. You can check out that article in our archives at Crescent City Sports weeks ago, talking about what will be the secondary market as far as available offensive linemen, guys who have experience, particularly at tackle. I think the Saints are going to be wading in those waters, no matter how aggressive they are and what they do, to get young offensive linemen out of this draft, because they need more experience as well. They've got to have more options than they have on the table right now, even if they get younger.
I toss it to you. Talk about the secondary market.
David Bakhtari is a guy that I had an article, and I know he's probably a 1-year guy, like Chase Young, you know, but bring them in and let them school these young guys. But, you know, if they feel, I'm sure they're going to kick the tires on Bakhtari, but if they feel like he can be good for a year or 2, he could be a great fit. I mean, he's got the skins on the wall, career hit at Green Bay. He's at the end of the line, but he'd probably be good for one year more.
Any other players out there that you might
I mean,
think?
he's the one that jumps out a lot, but I mean, Becton, the kid, you know, was played for the Jets, but I think Bakhtari would be the guy that I would kind of like. He would fit better in what, you know, moving forward.
I agree with you, Jude. Again, I think that they have to get an offense, maybe 1 or 2 offensive tackles, or offensive tackle, maybe now an offensive guard in this draft. but I think they got to be involved in the secondary market. They still have contracts, at least 3 contracts that they can restructure to open up some more cap room for them. Taysom Hill, Juwan Johnson, there's one more that slips my mind, but again, that would give them an opportunity to maybe open up about $36 million more if they wanted to go in the secondary market and get a lineman, wide receiver, defensive tackle as well as what I think they need that.
And it wouldn't be shocking if talking about the need at guard now in particular, and the fact that he proved he can play tackle after all these years, they might have to reconsider Andrew Speed again, right? Simply because they know he can play 2 different positions that are needs right now.
And I'm going to tell you, and Jude knows this, I did a story, he's going to run the next few days. The Saints have done an outstanding job with undrafted free agents.
Yes.
And I sent it to Jude, a list of guys they've had going back to 1967, and you'll be surprised. There's some Saints Hall of Famers on that list. Guys who they signed after the draft. So the Saints have always done a great job finding those gems who were not drafted. And I don't say you ought to bank everything on that, but they've gotten some starters. Tim Lolito is a guy, a perfect example, a couple of years ago. Undrafted, and man, he had a great career here. He turned it into, he went somewhere else. But I kind of think, and Mickey kind of showed his hand a little bit, that he may package maybe some of those 5th round picks and something from next year and move up in the 3rd and 4th round. So you may maybe get a couple of 5ths and maybe a 4th round from next year, and what will that get me?
And this may scare fans, but if the Saints were aggressive to the point of trading next year's 1st round pick and packaging to try to get another pick in the top 50 or 60, because again, if they thought if we can come away with guys that we rate as starters, as quality players, 2 offensive linemen and a wide receiver. The big wide receiver is the thought process. They want a more physical presence to fill what they were hoping Michael Thomas could do to complement Chris Olave, and as well as his name's slipping my mind, but the there we go. Don't worry about it. But the point is, they have faster, smaller receivers, and they don't have a proven big target. So the 2nd round seems to be an area in a deep draft where they have the Keon Colemans of the world, who could be underrated players in a deep draft who wound up being Pro Bowl caliber guys. As a matter of fact, Coleman stands out, the Opelousas product, because he's somebody that when you look at him, the measurables pre-draft, it reeks of Michael Thomas. He's getting compared to Drake London by a lot of analysts, but he looks a lot more like Michael Thomas to me. So those are the type of guys at number 45 they could be looking at. But if you believe that there's 12 players potentially in that top 45 on the offensive line that are worthy of being drafted, and you have needs there and you like certain players, and you're Mickey Loomis in that front office, I could very, very easily see them jump up and do that. And Rashid Shaheed, I don't know why his name slipped my mind, but you've got 2 smaller receivers. Shaheed makes things happen in space. He's a deep threat. Olave reminds you more and more of Brandon Cooks, where he's not a guy who's going to make it happen, run after the catch, wiggle too often, but he is a proven solid starting wide receiver. They're not big, though, and I don't think they have that big 3rd guy in the mix that they like on the table right now on the roster, despite the moves they made with some value free agents.
Rene, is there enough depth at the tackle position that, again, at 45, they may go bookend?
They may go
bookend tackles. In other words, get a tackle at 14, come back at 45.
I can't see that happening.
Okay.
Because they have other needs. And I tell you, a wide receiver is somebody. I'll throw a name at wide receiver. Malachi Corley is a kid from Western Kentucky. 5'11", 5'10", about 215. You say, man, he runs a 4.4 40. He led the nation in missed tackles with 40. I mean, so he's a great in the space. He's great in space. I forgot how many catches he had, but Malachi Corley has really opened some eyes. Western Kentucky kid. The scouts know who he is, and 2nd round pick may be early. I don't know, but if the Saints like him, 2nd or 3rd round is a guy. But I can see them. I can't see him going back to back with that. But I really, really think that after the draft is over, they're going to sign a veteran.
Okay.
I think they have to.
I think they have to as well. I really do. Quarterbacks. How many think go in the 1st round? How much movement do you think will happen in the 1st round for teams that, again, are quarterback poor, that, again, may go up and get a quarterback?
Well, I mean, I think in front of the Saints sitting at 14, you know that there's going to be 4. You realize that Caleb Williams is number 1, and it sounds like Jaden Daniels is going to be number 2. After that, Drake May and J.J. McCarthy are going to go. So who goes after that? Who's in that next tier? There could be teams reaching at that position, particularly if Minnesota somehow isn't able to get up, because they're the team we know is not in a position to get one of that top 4 for sure right now, that they're going to try to move up as well. And then you bring the Bo Nixes, Michael Penixes of the world, etc. I don't know how many teams are going to reach after that top 4 necessarily, because again, there's so many good wide receiver and offensive line prospects that are premium positions now in the league. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's at least one more quarterback taken in the first round, simply because teams always reach for that spot. I don't believe after that top 4 that I feel very comfortable with anybody else in the first round, and I'm more of a Michael Penix fan, but I know he's had those injury issues, and you have to wonder how he can handle pass pressure, because his offensive line was very good, his scheme was very good at Washington, so there are question marks there. But if he were a first-round pick, particularly in the bottom third, it wouldn't shock me.
Rene?
Penix, Penix is a name that he's been talked about a lot more recently. In fact, watching ESPN this morning, talking about the talking heads, Penix's name has come up quite a bit, and I don't think he'd jump into the upper half of the first round, but I think before the first round is over, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see his name.
Right. Do you think there'll be a lot of movement for quarterbacks in the first round?
Movement.
Trades?
You know,
teams jumping up, trying to go, targeting a certain quarterback?
You got the 4, and you got Bo Nix, and you got Penix, and you got, I think this is a quarterback year, and this is a lot of teams. Denver Broncos need a quarterback. There's a lot of teams need a quarterback. The Patriots, the Redskins, the Commanders. So many teams need them. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of trades, because teams know that other teams know who's trying to get there to get a quarterback. They know that the Giants probably might jump there to get a quarterback, regardless of Daniel Jones. So they're gonna hold on to that pick, and they're gonna offer. That this is what it's gonna take for you to move up here. So. But I think after a couple of trades, I would not be shocked if you see the dominoes start to fall.
And if you like 2 or 3 of those offensive linemen, you're going to be willing to slide back for extra picks to let somebody grab a quarterback. Again, you're going to take advantage of the depth in the draft. Again, the Saints don't do that, but a lot of teams do and will, I think.
And that's why I asked the question earlier. Again, if somebody is quarterback needy or is looking at a wide receiver at 14, and you can move back a few spots and still get the tackle you're looking for, why wouldn't you do that if you could maybe pick up a 4th-round pick?
I think Atlanta at number 8 is going to be a team that's on the move.
Yeah.
Backwards. To pick up more picks, because they're in a prime position. They took care of their quarterback need with Kirk Cousins, and I think they know that this is a time to be a seller and really clean up. And Terry Fontenot, running the show over there, will probably take advantage of that.
And I think they would be looking for a lineman or a pass rusher. I think that's what Atlanta would be looking for.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have Dallas Turner again.
He's the guy they like.
To Atlanta as well. All right, Rene. I know you're going to have to pronounce all these names. Give us the top 4 to 5.
He keeps putting you on the spot, man.
Olufashanu, Talise Faga.
Okay, now wait. Shanu is from Penn State.
Penn State,
right?
Talise Faga is the Oregon State guy.
Oregon State.
He's a big guy. And I'm going to tell you about Fashanu. He bench presses like 4'10", 4'5", 4'10", 6'6", about 315, 317. Power cleans 355. He's got the measurables, and he's got the strength and the power.
That's who I like.
Yeah, Fashanu from Penn State. Talise Faga is kind of a mauler.
Right.
He's in the 330 range, about 6'5", 6'6". A guy that a lot of teams like, Arizona, John Morgan.
Okay.
Easiest name to pronounce.
Yeah.
He's probably.
I would have taken that one.
Yeah. he can play guard or tackle. He can play either side too. Then you got the Kingsley Sualamualatala from Brigham Young. He's 21 years old. And
I sure hope they don't pick him.
Sualamualatala, he's from Brigham Young. He's 21 years old. And I tell you another guy to keep an eye on is Amari Mims from Georgia. He's 21 years old, 6'8", 340.
Right.
He's a little raw. He didn't have a lot of 28 games, but not a lot of starting experience at Georgia. So his upside, you don't know how good he can be.
I've looked at him and know that physical talent is off the charts.
Yeah.
But you think after the Trevor Penning experiment, which is still ongoing, could the Saints possibly take that risk? I doubt it. They've got to go for somebody like Fashanu, Penn State, who has more experience.
Who do you like?
Fashanu makes a lot of sense to me as far as the Saints need. Can you come away with a first-round pick? You want to spend it on a lineman. You really want to, in the top half of the draft, of the round, you want to come up with a left tackle. So he makes a lot of sense. And Troy
Troy from Washington.
Right.
Troy Forhanu.
Okay.
Right.
Forhanu, yes.
I like him because even though some teams may see him as a guard at 6'4", he has the arm length, and what I really like is if the Saints are moving more towards that outside zone scene and they really want to have more mobile linemen who can get out in space, he can do that, but he's also a polished pass rusher already from a passing offense who's handled a lot of good, especially speed pass rushers, and he has the strength and the base to be able to hand power too. So the Saints could see him, the way they're moving now with Clint Kubiak, that he could be a left tackle for them, and at the very least he projects really well inside the guard. So if you're going to take that gamble on a guy you're not 100% sure of as tackle, you want somebody who's rated as a likely, at least average starting offensive lineman somewhere. You want that floor to be really high for a Saints team that right now is probably looking for 3 starters as we sit here.
And Roger Rosengarten from Washington is the opposite side of Forhanu. He's a tackle guard guy, and he's gotten a lot of attention. He's not necessarily a first-round guy beyond reach, but he's probably a second-round guy.
Kid from Alabama, Latham.
Latham, we forgot about him. Yeah, he's a mauler. Right. He's a big kid.
Right. Could he be available?
Oh yeah. He could be available.
And I've seen him mocked as high as 6th.
But he has to be exclusively a right tackle. He's
played there, so you project it. He thinks he can play left tackle.
Right. Okay.
Again, you'd have to work him out.
And also the best of all of them, right?
J.C. Latham is a guy who's he's about
Joe Alt undoubtedly is going to be a top 10 pick. And if he were to fall to 8, Mickey might be calling his old employee on the phone. We saw that mock by Larry Holder at The Athletic, and I think that was very smart. I don't believe that Alt is valued as he is as the prototypical left tackle. I don't think it's very possible that at this point he's going to be available at 8.
Right. We have a question from the internet. If there's a run offensive lineman and quarterback, do you think the Saints will move back?
If there's a run on quarterbacks
and offensive linemen,
yes,
and let's say the lineman they want is not there.
Yes, yes, I think they would move back. He would certainly consider it if, again, the pool of players where would you be moving to?
No more than 2 or 3 spots.
Right, yeah, he's not going to move 10 spots. So he said the other day, 3 or 4 or 5 spots maybe. So if you're going from 14 to 18, and you still have those pool of players that you are targeting, and he thinks he can get one of them, maybe. But to move back 8 or 10 spots, no.
And I laugh when people talk about you're not getting a lot out of Loomis out of these press conferences. I think you do sometimes because what you just said, and also the fact that he noted, we have a top 14 because we have the 14th pick, and if anybody moves ahead of that, then that's better for us. And I think that's why they never move back, because they're always thinking we're getting value, because somebody's taking somebody that isn't in their top 14. Right. I'll be very surprised if there isn't an offensive lineman sitting there that they like. I really would.
Yeah.
Me too. All right. Penning. Future. What do you think the future is there? I mean, is he a guy?
I've talked to people.
Is he inside? Is he outside?
Yeah, that's the question.
I've talked to coaches who should know, NFL coaches, and I've talked to players. And a good friend, a really good friend of mine, Jim Dombrowski, if you remember, moved from tackle to guard, and he explained, the things. It's not as easy as people think. You just don't move him in there. Right. You got to have the skills to play there. And his rookie year, he was hurt. It was basically a wash. Last year, I think he was just his mind. He mentally, he just wasn't with it. He has a new offensive line coach. Physically, he can play there. I don't care. I've seen him play. The Saints was really sold on him. He has all the physical skills, and he's the temperament to play there. He's got to get it in his mind, above the shoulders, that I can do this.
Because his physicality, everything about what he can do as an athlete says that he should have quick twitch and be quick off the snap, but mentally he's clearly slow. That first move he's reacting to, he's always a step slow, so it makes you think he's doing too much thinking out there rather than reacting and being confident.
I think he's thinking way too much, and he's made it. And I mean, people say, "What is it?" No, believe me, that's a lot of the game is won above the shoulders. And a new offensive line coach. I'm not saying the old coach was not done a good job, but sometimes you change the scenery. It's a whole different.
One of the things I've been saying again is I don't know if there's an offensive line camp out there, if there's offensive coaches that are tutoring these guys in the offseason, but he needs to be in one. Again he needs to, and especially again with the new offense that's coming in and the new zone blocking scheme, he's got to be proficient as that. Let me throw this out there. Saints invested a lot to be able to get Penning. They're still all in. Do you see the Saints maybe going for the right tackle because of Ramczyk's injury and maybe again the end of his career, and maybe he's saying, look, he's our left tackle. We're going to make it work and going for a right tackle in the first round.
I can see them, again, I'm stubborn,
right.
What I just said. I can see this. If I was them, unless they don't like the guy, I would draft a right tackle, save Dave Bakhtiari, and let him work with Penning.
Right.
And let that work out, fall out. And if Penning happens to be really good, well then, I don't know, I would still, not in Bakhtiari as insurance, but a guy who can hold that position if he has to, and draft a right tackle.
For example, Fuaga from Oregon State.
Right.
He really looks like an exciting right tackle prospect who some think could play the left, but he's been so dominant over there. It really makes you think that could be a strategy if they say, I feel like we're going to have an all-pro type of guy at least at right tackle. If they're that excited about him, they'll pull the trigger.
Right. Well, that's why I asked, because again, look, you put draft capital into this guy.
You want a star.
Right.
And if it's either tackle spot, obviously left is more important, but you want to be good on the bookends. And if they think he's going to be special, somebody like that could be the pick, or Latham from Alabama as well.
They knew that Hurst was going to retire. They knew this since March. Obviously, they went out and got Udoa from Minnesota, a guy that's he's really much like Hurst. He's a swing guy. He can play multiple positions for you. He's played tackle, he's played guard, he's played left, he's played right. Where does he fit in all of this?
They're going to start him at left tackle.
Udoa?
I mean, when I say start, they're going to get him his first reps probably at left tackle.
Not a guard, a tackle.
Yes,
Okay.
I think a tackle.
Okay, go
I think a tackle. He's more natural as a tackle than he is a guard. I think a guard would be a fallback, but I think they're going to give him a spot at left tackle or right tackle. I'm guessing.
Right.
They would give him his first reps to see how he fits in at left tackle, depending on who's drafted and if they sign a veteran. But Udoa is a guy that, okay, we signed a couple of guys to swing him to right tackle. I think he'll start a tackle.
And because he's an experienced veteran who's also played for Clint Kubiak, and because of injury, had to start 15 games in that season when Kubiak was the Vikings offensive coordinator at guard, they already know he can play there. So you want to see, can he fill the biggest need if we need him to at first? Because they've already seen him in the
Hurst,
league.
right?
Right, because they've already seen him play other positions.
Interesting tweet by Jeff Duncan this week. Randy Mueller has been working with the Saints for the last 2 weeks in the draft. Now that shocks me because of the way things, disintegrated at the end, with him going GM of the year in 2000. Was looking for, again, a contract extension with more money. Mr. Benson, again, was kind of lowballing him. He goes to Atlanta to try to get leverage. Benson gets upset. This is a guy that everybody thought was going to be the next great GM in the NFL, and then, of course, ends up firing him. And I talked about on the radio show yesterday, if you're not loyal to the Bensons and the Saints, you are ostracized in a lot of cases. I was surprised to hear that, but then I started thinking, well, Loomis is in New Orleans because of Mueller. And again, at this point, maybe again, look, I think I'm all for it. Randy Mueller's, again, when it comes to pro personnel, college personnel, again, he's still doing a lot of stuff there. The UFL, was the XFL he was in for a while there. But putting another fresh eyes on that, I thought was interesting. You guys are smiling. Give me your take.
Having the win creates strange bedfellows, brother. I mean, a little bird told me that, and I said, man, that had to be wrong. I heard that, I didn't totally believe it.
Because of what happened,
Yeah,
right?
I'm like, this has got to be, what's the punchline?
Right.
But I guess the more eyes you have and the more experience you have making decisions, feels like you can make the more sound decision. But I don't know. I mean, who knows how much input he's going to have. Okay. I'm sure it'll be a consulting kind of deal.
That's what it is, yeah, from what I understand. Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you think about Randy Mueller's the man who brought Mickey Loomis to New Orleans. Mickey Loomis still has a great deal of respect for him, and Mickey Loomis also has a great deal of power within the organizational structure.
Even more now than he's ever had.
Exactly right. So when he's saying, this man can help us, we should use him as a resource, at this point, 2 decades later, who's really arguing with Mr. Benson having long passed away? It makes sense if you're able to get that little bit of help from somebody that's trusted and respected, and has put some of his opinions on paper now, or the internet, if you will, digital paper, and still sharing that and still respected around the country as somebody who knows pro prospects as well as the draft. Why not? If it helps them make the right choice here or there, that's the kind of consultant you're looking for.
I'm looking at Look, the guy knows football. That's for sure.
he
All right,
does.
putting you guys on the line here. I'm not going to ask for players. I'm going to ask for positions. Okay. The Saints will come away with what positions at the end of this draft?
Tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, tight end, safety, a cornerback,
Do they trade out of the fifth-round picks? The 4 fifth-round picks? Do
Yeah,
they
I
move
think they're going
those?
to have to move up. Yes.
Yeah, they move those.
Yeah, and I mean at the end of the line, I tell you what, I told many people, drafting a quarterback be a wasted pick. But there's a guy who I like, and he could fall to the 7th round, Austin Reed out of Western Kentucky.
Okay.
Man, he's put up some serious numbers. Anyway, he's a guy, if he was there in the 7th round, I'm not a scout, but if they like him, he'd be certainly worth a 7th round pick. But so a quarterback, tackle, wide receiver, maybe another lineman. I still wouldn't give up on Saldivari. I think he can be really, really good.
That's a question.
He was hurt.
That's a question I asked on the radio show yesterday. You know, again, this is a guy, they put in a 4th-round pick for this guy. Again, he gets a mulligan year in his first year. He should be able to assimilate onto the line this year if he's worth the 4th-round pick they gave up.
Sure, you almost have to figure that somebody that comes from a non-Power 5 school.
Old Dominion.
Yeah, somebody that you need to get a little experience in the pros behind the scenes, build him up in certain areas physically and help him catch up on the mental side of the game. So sure, he's far from somebody they've given up on. They probably have great hopes for him. As far as what I think happens, if they have a pick in each of the first 2 rounds, no matter what they do or if they stay put, if they move around, I think that they have to go offensive tackle first and foremost. And I would think they would be thinking wide receiver, but even though Brian Bresee looks like a hit from last year's first round, they could use another promising defensive tackle, an every down guy. No, they're going to look. You don't take run stuffers early, you know, and so they're still a 4-man front team. You're looking for a guy who's an every down quality prospect that you can add into the mix with the 2 free agents they signed last offseason and obviously Bresee, because you need numbers. You need at least 4 guys right now that you can go to war with that you believe in. Right now, they just have those 3.
I agree.
One more name, quick.
Sure.
Cedric Johnson is a guy, 6th-round guy, maybe 6th or 7th-round guy. Ole Miss, 119 pressures, 16 sacks, 13 coming last year.
Outside or inside?
Outside guy. He's an outside rush guy. I'm just, as a name, again, I'm just thinking names. Austin Reed, Cedric Johnson, name to think about.
I'm going to take a quick break here to hear from my underwriters, but I want to come back. I'm going to stick football for a few more minutes. So I want you to give me, again, some Louisiana guys that are going to go in this draft. Again, with this first round all the way again through. We'll do that when we come back. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Again, I'm your host, Eric Asher. We got a great panel for you today. Jude Young and also Rene Nadeau of CrestCitySports.com. Quick break to hear from our underwriters, and we'll be right back. Stick around.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Rene Nadeau and Jude Young of CrestCitySports.com are our guests. All right, Rene, tossing the ball to you, my friend. Louisiana, New Orleans kids that will go in this draft.
I'll start with New Orleans first. Got a couple of kids from New Orleans that's going to get drafted. Cedric Van Pran, a Warren Easton kid, Georgia, probably a 3rd-round pick. If he gets picked, he'll be the 7th kid from Warren Easton who hits the NFL. Nathan Thomas, Chalmette, and I wrote this about a month ago. Chalmette, Nathan Thomas out of ULL. He'd probably a 3rd-day pick. He would only be the 2nd guy since Norris Weiss to go in the draft.
What a name, Norris Weiss, huh?
Wide receivers, a couple from Tulane, local kids. Jaquan Jackson from Hahnville, he'll probably be a third-day pick. Lawrence Keys, great speed, McDonough 35. Linebacker Adrian Cooper, my goodness, he could be over 200 tackles. He's out of Covington, out of Texas A&M. 17 tackles for loss last year. Led the SEC, 8 sacks. He's out of Covington. He could be a first round.
There's a lot of buzz about him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's big time. I mean, the Saints like him a lot. Aaron Brule, the kid from Rummel, played at Mississippi State and Michigan State. He could be a free agent, but a late round pick. A couple of guys from Tulane, Jarius Monroe from East St. John, and Lance Robinson from De La Salle. Okay, a late round pick or a free agent. The kids from Louisiana, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas.
All first rounders?
Yes. Mason Smith, don't know if he's going to be a second or third round pick. I'm trying to think who else. Michael Pratt, I think is a fourth round pick.
Fourth round pick?
Yes.
Okay.
And he could be with the right team. He could really.
What's the right team for him? And what's the right system for him in your opinion?
Behind a veteran, going with a team that has a veteran. Well, I don't know if this is ideal. Justin Herbert. Okay. If he went with the Chargers.
Chargers?
Yeah.
How about you? What do you think?
It would be good to see Pratt get into a system that improves his ability to get the ball out of his hands quicker.
Okay.
So it seems to me that the shorter passing game West Coast would be really nice for his development. If he's going to be a guy who's going to make it in the league and eventually have a chance to start, that's the area where it seems like he needs to get better. So I'd love to see him get with an offense that's good at getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands so he can continue to grow before he eventually gets thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of other names. Charles Turner, kid from LSU, the center. Chris Pines, the guard from Tulane. I think he's got a real shot. He's a big physical guy, a guard, and he could be a third-day pick, and he can make it. He reminds me a lot of Damian Lewis out of LSU, who is stuck with the NFL and got some starting experience. I tell you what, he's an inch short, but Sincere Haynesworth, 61 starts at Tulane, a three-time team captain. Yeah. I mean, that alone, he'll get in a camp. Sincere Haynesworth will get in a camp. But when you hear coaches talk about him, they don't just say he's good, man. Their eyes. Yeah. I mean, and that's Sincere Haynesworth is a guy who deserves to be in a camp, and he will be in an NFL camp.
But probably undrafted?
Probably undrafted.
Undrafted.
Well, the thing I wanted to talk about is what we were talking about during the brief break, which is these 3 wide receivers from Louisiana. Obviously, the 2 from LSU, Malik Neighbors. How high could he go? He could be top 5, and he should be. He's dynamic and he's special. And Brian Thomas's ability to potentially develop into an All-Pro, who has that physical package that you look for with the size. He can win the jump balls. He has the breakaway speed. And I love Keon Coleman out of Opelousas in Florida State. He's this type of guy who reminds me so much of a Michael Thomas, but I think he's a more explosive athlete. He's got that basketball background that Rene always stresses. It's so important at certain positions. That's an added bonus. I just think he's a ball winner, and he's a guy who can also do it after the catch. And I think because of the depth at wide receiver, he's going to be a steal in the second round.
Right. Another guy, Grambling, Sundiata Anderson. Okay. He is a sack guy. I'm going to guess he's probably in the 20-25 sacks he has for his career at Grambling. He's just an athlete. He's very raw, but he's an athlete. And he's a guy that you take a flyer on in the last round, 6th or 7th round, or undrafted free agent. But the Saints do like that guy. Okay. Sundiata Anderson, he's a rush guy.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to shift. Let me just one last question on the draft. Saints pick, first round.
Fashanu from Penn State.
Same. I hope he's there. It seems like the right fit.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what I'm going with. Obviously, I'd love to see an Alt or something like, but I think that's who they go with. All right, we got to go to Pels. Switch over. 0-2. Oklahoma City played a really good game in the first game, but I got blown out last night, 124-92. Thoughts?
Do I have to go first?
Yeah, I gotta. Look, I'll get my spiel at 4:00 this afternoon.
The way Game 1 went and finished, you sort of had a feeling that was the most likely result for Game 2, and you knew that was bad news for the Pels because now they have to win conceivably 4 out of the next 5 to move on. Not looking good. And the depressing part of this is that, in some respects, it's depressing. In others, it sort of backs up what I've been saying. Brandon Ingram simply hasn't shown up. And when you talk about the future of this team and the money you're going to put into the guys who are going to be the leaders, the stars, the difference makers on your team, you've got to get a better performance than you've gotten out of him. And to a lesser extent, you got to start thinking about C.J. McCollum. Despite his strengths and everything he brings as a leader and a shooter, he's not a guy who's going to win you too many games, especially against the good teams in this league with the ball in his hands. And that's two of your big three. They need Zion Williamson on the floor. We know why they don't have him right now. They need to build around him, and you can argue McCollum fits as a floor spacer and a leader. I just continue to not see it with Brandon Ingram. I know we could go into how they can come back and win this series, but the reality to me is the future, and how good they can eventually be is more important. And the front office, there's a lot of love for Brandon Ingram.
Absolutely.
But you are 1 year away from having to pay him starting over $50 million a year. You simply can't do it if you want to be a contender in the league. If you just want to go to the postseason and sell tickets, he'll help you do that. But what's your real goal here? That's what I think about the Pels. I think that's the story. I hope they come back in this series, but there's bigger fish to fry here moving forward.
It's exactly what I've been talking about on the radio. $36 million this year. Next year, after next year, you got to give him a super max. That's $50 million for Brandon Ingram. For a guy that is a mid-range assassin and has really played, he is the leading assist man for this team this year. But you've seen his limitations in this playoff. When you play physical against him, his inability to get the shot off. Love C.J. McCollum, but he's got $63 million left on his deal over 2 years, and he's going to be 33 years old next year.
And I don't know what you think about this too, Rene. I think you need to have Trey Murphy and Herb Jones on the floor.
I agree.
Heavy minutes all the time, and build around that with Zion and say, hey, can we find a guard who's a dynamic playmaker to put with those guys? That's what you do with Ingram, with your assets, maybe even McCollum too.
Right.
It's clear to me that that's got to be the future with the young, good role players you have behind them on the bench. The problem is the stars, not the depth. The rest of the league pretty much envies New Orleans' depth.
Right.
You know, I'm going to go back to 1979 with the New Orleans Saints. And Chuck Muncie had a rushed for 1,200 yards, just under 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. Was in a Pro Bowl. It meant something then. He was a Pro Bowl MVP, and everybody was raving about him. And I remember thinking back, this would be a really great time to trade him right now. And
especially all the problems he'd had in New Orleans back then, right?
Yeah, and he was having some issues
with drugs. Right.
So I remember people telling me, my friends, this is 1979, okay? Right. You must be crazy. I said, well, I think they may regret it, but I'd trade him right now. He comes back, Dick Nolan, they keep him 4 games, and then they trade him.
Right.
All right. And he does all right in San Diego. Right. But I kind of liken that to Brandon Ingram. It's better to trade somebody 1 day too early than 1 day too late.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Obviously, last night, when you can't get the scoring that you need from your stars, you're not going to win.
Right.
Okay? I mean, and C.J. McCollum and Brandon Ingram have struggled,
well, you said the playoffs get more physical, and that's when those dynamic players have to be able to figure out how to work their way through it. They can't be stopped. They're your leaders.
Right.
So even though you've added a lot of shooting on your roster, I sometimes wonder how Willie Green decides not to use it to his advantage more than he should. Again, that's another argument altogether. But he is, at this point, handicapped when you talk about playing the best teams in the league, because you can see that the Pels stars aren't good enough. And when it comes down to it, the teams that are going to advance amongst the better teams in the league, the playoff teams, the contenders, have the stars who produce. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he produces.
Right.
He's a star. He's going to come through for you more often than not. And he still has a lot to prove, but I believe in him moving forward, and I'm sure so does Oklahoma City.
Right.
I don't think outside of Zion Williamson that when you're investing the biggest money in your top players outside of them, that they have players who are tough and physical and get the job done. And I feel bad for Zion because he's got some of the Shaq syndrome now working against him in this league, because everybody knows you can't stop him one-on-one. He's such a force. So the officials allow him to get beat up.
Yes.
You're going to have to move forward and deal with that, and that just adds on to your physical concerns about Zion holding up. But you've got to build your team around him and realize you've got these young, now affordable stars in Murphy and Jones that you also need to utilize as your two-way game winners on the floor. I want to see how good Murphy can become. You can't see how good he can evolve into with Brandon Ingram still on the roster.
You know, it's funny, as I'm taking my notes on the game last night, you know, and you know, I'm finished up, and I went back. The thing I said was same song, different verse. Lack of physicality. Again, we talked about it last year. At the end of the year, you need dogs with rings. You need guys that are coming in, physical guys, you know, that can augment what you already have on this roster. You didn't go get your point guard. You didn't go get your athletic big. Your crunch time, you are non-existent. You're maybe the worst team in the league in crunch time. Okay, you're 0-24 now in the fourth quarter, going to the fourth quarter with a deficit, unable to come back. 1-8 now in again crunch time games. The athletic big, you saw it last night. Valanciunas dominates early, but then Holmgren again is escaping. He doesn't have this foot speed to get to him.
Right.
And then Larry Nance plays his heart out, but he just doesn't have enough, especially at his age now, to be able to handle some of the more athletic bigs.
Well, they need to marry themselves for the rest of this series to getting the ball to Valanciunas as much as they can over 4 quarters, because the Thunder sacrifice size and rebounding to max out their talent. And the Pelicans need to say, hey, we have an advantage offensively here with Valanciunas that we might not have had matched up with other top teams in the West in a series. They need to, if anything, do more to get him the ball more consistently over 4 quarters so they don't have these lulls.
I agree.
Once you're playing from behind, you're in trouble.
And you can run the offense through him. Okay, that's the thing that's really kind of mind blowing for me right now. You didn't see him in the last 4 minutes of game 1 where they had a chance to win that game. And of course, look, I understand defensively he was a liability for them and will be again against more athletic centers, but. My gosh, the first 11 points were his. If you just keep going down low to him, make them stop him at that point. A viewer on the internet sent us a question about Willie Green. Says we thinks Willie Green looks lost to let Willie Green go.
That's a question. There's people who are.
Now remember, they just re-upped him.
They just re-upped him.
Okay, they just gave him a contract extension.
Everything's not on his lap. David Griffin has a lot to do with it.
Well, they gave him a contract extension as well.
What I'm saying is it's not totally on Willie Green.
Okay.
The thing about Willie Green, he doesn't always, and I guess his style, he doesn't question a lot of calls. He's not Adam, he doesn't question a lot of calls. But the thing that is glaringly obvious is this team, Zion plays 70 games, and they fighting tooth and nail just to stick in the playoffs, just to squeeze in there. I mean, what is the future of this team? Is Valanciunas, how much is he going to be a part of the future?
Well, I mean, $15 million this year, expiring contract. I've asked the question, Rene, is this guy willing to take a pay cut to stay in New Orleans? Probably not.
No.
When you have a team like Oklahoma City who needs a big, who again has money, would be willing to give him again another $15-16 million to be there.
We don't want to discount the 49 wins. We don't want to discount the progress that this roster's made.
Absolutely not.
But then you think, do you have the coach that's gotten you as far as he can take you? What is the knowledge behind the scenes of you bringing in James Borrego, who as a head coach had skins on the wall as being a good coach as far as getting the most out of your players offensively? How much say is he really getting? Is this in the end Willie Green doing what Willie Green wants to do because he's the boss? I mean, behind the scenes, the players know. That means the folks in the organization will know. And that would lead to a move if the feeling is, hey, the leadership here is stunting our potential growth. Now, again, I'll go back to you lose games at home you shouldn't lose. You lose close and late, especially leads close and late. That goes on your stars and your head coach. And it's up to your front office. It's up to Griffin to figure out, is this an issue with more the coaching and he's not getting out of these players? Are we not running the right sets and running off-ball screens, for example, to give Brandon Ingram more of a chance to be successful against a physical defender like Lou Dort, for example? Are they not doing the right things? Or is it come down to that the players in the end are just not the right mix to lead you in battles in the Western Conference against the better teams in the league? They've got to figure that out this offseason. Now's the time to make decisive moves for the future.
Well, I'm just going to throw it out there, okay? If they get swept, and there's a possibility.
There's a possibility, yeah.
Okay, they get swept. are there major changes? Do we see Willie Green gone? Do we see Brandon Ingram traded? Do we see C.J. McCollum traded?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to, because what would motivate fans to buy season tickets when you bring the same product right back and maybe draft a player?
They're having problems selling tickets right now for games 3 and game 4.
So I'm saying is that what would motivate you to go out and buy season tickets if you get same thing, and you're saying that, you know, Zion played 70 games and Brandon. Okay, well, you got the same players and you get the same possibility of things can happen with Brandon Ingram. He could be hurt again. You're going to have to change the narrative a little bit. And the players involved, Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum is a possibility, and Valanciunas. Is Willie Green in there too? I don't know if you want to call that massive changes, but at least two of those people will probably be gone after this year.
You can't lose this series 4-0 and 4-1 and get handled and think that everything's okay moving forward. You can't just run it back with that same group.
Especially when you told everybody we want to run it back because we'll see what we have.
Exactly,
right?
And you got a full season with relative health for these guys to see what you have. Your younger so-called role players evolving, maybe a Murphy into something more, and your stars working together. And now you should be able to see the next step of, well, we put a good, talented group together, but the puzzle pieces don't fit.
Right.
You have to see that, and you also have to know at this point whether Willie Green is somebody that you trust. You don't want to be making a move into next season if malaise sets in and you get off to a bad start because there's not belief in the locker room. And I can tell you for a fact, I know that at times this year, especially when they were blowing those leads, that there was loss of belief. It can come back, and it did, and the end result was 49 wins. There was some loss of belief in that locker room, and it rears its ugly head when you're in the biggest games like here in the playoffs, where you can't get by the Lakers without them embarrassing you before they go to play Denver and get embarrassed themselves.
It's crazy to talk about this because, again, they won 49 games. They're in the playoffs. They're the 8th seed. But the goal was to be a top 6 seed. You didn't meet the goal. The goal was to win 50 games. You didn't do that. The goal was, again, to not have to be in the play-in. You were in the play-in. Again, the goal was to be able to see your stars play, again, the majority of the season. You did. Okay, Brandon Ingram played more games he's ever played since with the Los Angeles Lakers. It's the most that Zion has played in his NBA career. So at this point, you've got to have at least, you should know exactly where you're going next. Okay, because now you've got all the information. Now you have to be able to make a decision on, again, the future of this team. By the way, Game 3, Smoothie King Center, 2:30 on Saturday. To be announced on Monday, the game, because they're based on the Nuggets Lakers series. It'll be 7:30 or 8:30, and they're giving 50% off concessions before tip, trying to get folks to the game. They're giving away bucket hats and pullovers, trying to get folks to the game. It's an NBA playoff game, okay? There should not be incentives to be able to buy tickets, okay? And I understand it's a big weekend here in New Orleans with Jazz Fest and Zurich Classic, and of course, again, playoffs and the draft as well. Speaking of Zurich Classic, the team format has really seemed like, again, it's really taken off for this tour stop. You've got McIlroy and Lowry that's going to be paired. Scheffler and Cantley's going to be paired. You've got some of the top golfers in the world that are here. Your thoughts on again, how the Zurich has morphed into this team type tournament and how it's taken off, not just for, again, PGA, but the folks in New Orleans seem to love it.
Look, it saved the tournament in New Orleans because it was so competitive, and the PGA Tour was cutting down on tournaments to try to be able to win. This was before the LIV Golf Tour came along, that we were in trouble here. Simply because of stuck at a point in the calendar that wasn't necessarily the best, and we were having the top players not come here. Now you get a Rory McIlroy to come to town. He's never been. Why? Because this is an exciting and unique event that's got its place now on the calendar. I don't care what happens with LIV. This tournament should live on, so to speak, no matter what, if there's a merger or not. They did find their niche, and it's a fun event for the fans to go out at a great facility to watch golf at the TPC. So it wasn't a matter of it's not a great place to watch golf. It was a matter of if you're not getting the stars, people aren't going to take their time and invest to see it. They feel like they're getting a minor league product. You're getting a major league product in a competitive format over 4 days, where all 4 days are fun and matter and are interesting because it's a two-man team event. So I'm really happy for the First Tee and everybody that worked so hard, Steve Worthy, over these years to make this happen, and the tour working with New Orleans to give them this tournament. Oh, by the way, that LIV concept, I'm sure it's going to happen. That that on Super Bowl weekend next year. We're going to have 2 major golf tournaments next calendar year because it'll happen during Super Bowl weekend because the Saudis want it. So golf in New Orleans on the big-time level looking better than it's looking decades, I would say.
The tournament is sold out.
It's you know, Steve Worthy, I was going to say, you know, he's done a great job. They treat the golfers, the participants so well. I think the team thing concept has attracted people here, the best golfers. You get great weather here. It's a great time of year. I mean, the weather's going to be outstanding outside. And the people, this is a golf area. I mean, the fans here are really, and you get people come from all over the country for this tournament. So, I mean, you're right. It's sold out. They do a great job. The food, it's just New Orleans rolling out the red carpet for the fans and the golfers, and it's a great match.
And it's practiced for Ryder Cup and President's Cup for some guys from different countries, including the United States, as well as brothers get to play with each other. One golfer's playing with his former college coach's son, who's a young golfer. So you get all of these great storylines that you don't get at just another run-in-the-mill, non-major PGA event.
I want to go through baseball quickly for everybody. Again, Tulane 22-19, 7-8. They're 4th in the American Athletic Conference. They got Wichita State and Wichita this weekend. UNO 23-17, 8-4, 3rd in the Southland. 3 games at Texas A&M, Corpus Christi this weekend. No, they're home at Corpus Christi this weekend. Nichols 27-16, 10-5, 2nd in the Southland. Again, they're off this weekend. They lost Louisiana Tech last night, 10-7. Southeastern 21-19, 3-9, 8th in the Southland. They got at McNeese this weekend. ULL 17th in the nation now, 31-12, 15-3, 1st in the Sun Belt. Lost to HCU last night. They got USM for 3 this weekend. Louisiana Tech 30-13, 8-4, 2nd in the Coosa. Beat Nichols last night 10-7. Sam Houston at home for 3 this weekend. And Nola Gold 3-4, 8th place after 3 losses in a row. They're at Atham AC this weekend. And of course, as we get ready to wrap up, just quickly, 1 minute. Tulane spring game. What are you guys there? Were you there?
When that spring game, I made some practices, and you know, Ty Thompson doing a great job. I think Makai Hughes, having him back there is going to really.
Arnold Barnes, I heard, is looking really good.
He has, and I'm going to tell you, I would not be shocked if when is the opening game against Southeastern, I think, Kai Horton is the starting quarterback.
Okay. Right.
And very interesting that they're in great shape with NIL. They're going to do some more work coming up in the portal to get better, not worse. There were some thoughts about they would lose somebody very important in Patrick Jenkins to LSU. That's not going to happen. Tulane is rolling in all the right areas to stay good on the football field for years to come. And that's why they have such a great coach willing to come here and take over. It's hard to follow in Willie Fritz's footsteps, and yet you've got a guy in Sumrall who's ready to roll.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Why don't you just tease the UNO head coaching deal one more time for us before we get out of here? Got about 30 seconds.
Early next week, probably Monday, we're going to know who it is, and the community's going to get to meet the new head coach of the Privateers. First change in 14 years, and very excited about it.
I think everybody's going to be really excited as well. Jude Young, Rene Nadeau. Thanks so much for joining us on the program today. Again, CrestCitySports.com should be, again, the first thing that you look at in the morning when you're looking for great sports. And please join us on the all-new 106.1 The Ticket. This guy, again, every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Rene, thanks as always.
Thank you,
Just a plethora of knowledge, my friend. Thanks again for joining us on the program. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen. They'll take you to my website, ericasher.com, the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. And then, of course, set your DVR and you'll never miss this program. So many ways to catch our show. We're so blessed. WLAE, again, WLAE-TV 2, known as Encore. Also, Pelican Sports Television. Set the DVR. You catch the show each and every week. Catch me on the radio, 106.1, the Ticket, the all-new 106.1 The Ticket. That's 4 to 6 weekdays. Listen live at ericasher.com. Also, again, the 106.1 The Ticket website. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, our digital platforms are those. Also, again, you can check us out on our podcast. Anchor Spotify is our home base. We're on all podcasting platforms. I want to thank the underwriters who make the show possible. Please support our underwriters, the reason why this show goes on, and of course, the great folks here at WLAE who produce our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson. Also, Danielle Wick, as well as Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Jude Young, Rene Nadeau, I'm Eric Asher. Have a wonderful week here in New Orleans. What a weekend it's going to be. Jazz Fest, Zurich Classic, playoff basketball, and the draft. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.